Hi, my name is Mick Walsh. I've been a successful songwriter since 1990, and I've been very lucky that since that time I've constantly been making money from my songs. In fact, I'm very lucky that I pay my mortgage and all my bills through music, and these days that's a very rare occurrence. So I wanted to do these kind of video blogs because I get asked a lot by people, how do you become a songwriter? It's actually a very difficult question because the music industry has changed dramatically, even in the last 10 years. And if I go back to like 1990, when Dirty Cash, which is the song that I probably had more success with, when that was released, we were getting crazy advances. I think my first advance was for £100,000 or something, with all the little bonuses, etc. And then you got 30 grand if the next song was a top 10, and then you got another 30 grand if the album got into the charts. So I was lucky enough to just get in at the end of the demise of songwriting as a profession, as people still perceive it to be. But it has changed, and it has changed dramatically. A lot of it is to do with record companies and publishing companies not keeping their eye on the ball, and being aware of changing technology and the way that the world is getting smaller through the internet. And of course, a lot of it is due to the fact that of illegal downloads and people downloading music illegally through stuff like LimeWire, etc. So it's really hard now to break into that role of contract songwriter, which is what I was for a while at Warner's. And I've signed to two or three publishing companies since then. So these days, to make it as a songwriter, it really is not the best idea just to keep sending demo CDs or demo MP3s off to people, unless they're absolutely perfect and unless you have an in. That is, you know someone who works for the record company or the song's been requested. Because I've also set the other side of the desk, and at Warner's I was an A&R consultant for a while, and in those days it was tapes, and the guys, the mailmen used to bring in big boxes of cassettes, and it's impossible to listen to all those songs for a start. So it still is pointless really sending them off. The best way to make it as a songwriter is to actually find an act and write the songs for them. So that is a new act. Now I'm a vocal coach as well. If you're interested in vocal lessons from me, drop me an email at mickwalshusa@gmail.com. So that's mickwalshusa, all one word, @gmail.com, and I'll let you know about my singing lessons. I also offer a songwriting critique service. You can find out about that at www.songcritiqueusa.com. www.songcritiqueusa.com. So just winding up a little bit. The best way to have a career as a songwriter these days is to come self-contained with the whole package. So if you're not an artist yourself, like for example, I'm kind of like too old to go into the dance kind of field. I could possibly still cut it as a DJ producer. So I would have to find someone. So I would have to think, now what is commercially viable at the moment, and listen to stuff that's happening. I'm not saying that you need to be derivative. You need to have that originality as well. But be aware of what's happening in the charts or in that genre of music that you want to go into. So find yourself an act. Somebody who can sing, if singing is a big part of that. It's not always. With dance music, a lot can be done with technology. But find someone who can sing, who looks good, and basically is a vehicle for your songs. Now, part of that team, it also helps if you have someone who can manage that person as well. It helps if you have a video, and it helps if that person is a good dancer. So that's what record companies are looking for now. Those days of contract songwriters are very, very few and far between. You can still do it. There are some record companies that will, publishing companies, that occasionally will take on contract writers, but it's getting very, very hard. So that's my first tip. find yourself an act, and get the whole 9 yards to go with it. So you need the manager, you need the songs, you need a video, you need Facebook, you need a MySpace, you need stuff on CD Baby and iTunes, because the record companies don't have the money that they used to have. So whereas before they would do all of that, and they used to have, when we were first signed up in the Adventures of Stevie V in 1990, you still had development deals. So a record company would sign you for maybe, sometimes it was like 5 album deals, but they would find you and spend crap loads of money on developing you as an artist, throwing different styles at you, throwing different genres at you, dressing you differently, finding a stylist. These days, record companies don't have the money. Well, they do have the money, but they don't want to spend it because they don't have to. It wouldn't matter to the record company if they never signed another artist again, because the big record companies like EMI, Virgin, Sony, they all rely on their back catalogues. Now you look at the EMI for a start. EMI never has to sign anybody else ever again, even if they're in existence. I'm not sure if they are, because they have the Beatles back catalogue, and somebody else will have the Elton John catalogue or the Billy Joel catalogue. So they're making crap loads of money anyway. So they don't really need another songwriter, but the world needs another songwriter, because another thing that the record companies are very slow on getting hold of is that there are new demographics out there of people my age, like 40 plus, who want to hear new music. Which brings me on to another point, that be inventive. I mean, there's nothing to stop you now from starting your own record label. You can do so much through the internet, through self-promotion. I've made a considerable career indirectly, without me even having to try, with my songs being on iTunes and CD Baby and stuff like that. Now, I don't actively play a part in that. That's done by other people. But you can have success as a songwriter and not be famous. And lastly, don't confuse fame with success, because as a songwriter you're always going to be fairly anonymous unless you're a singer-songwriter, and it's the wrong reason to go into doing something like songwriting. I'm in my studio like minimum 5 or 6 hours every day coming up with new stuff. And it's a drive that I and every other songwriter that I know has. So it's not a drive to be famous. Excuse me, I lose my voice. It's not a drive to be famous. That's not part of it. So decide what your priorities are. It's always a good idea to get feedback on songs, because one of the things, you only get one shot. My publisher over in London, I'm not going to divulge who he is, but he's signed some major acts. I could reel them off. He's often gets sent CDs, MP3s, and you really only get one shot. If you send in an MP3, the chances are all against you getting a deal anyway. But if you send in something and it's not developed enough, it's not going to happen. These days, even if you're sending in a song for, say, for example, I don't know, Carrie Underwood to cover, you have to send her the finished song, and it has to be pristine. It has to be recorded perfectly. Stuff that's done in kind of like on a 4-track cassette, it just doesn't wash anymore. What the record company or the public company will do, they'll play the song to Carrie Underwood, and they'll say, okay, now give us an instrumental, and they'll just put Carrie Underwood's vocals on top of your instrumental. So that track has to be recorded to the best quality possible, and that you really need to know what you're doing. Now you can record that kind of stuff fairly cheaply. Logic is fairly user friendly. It's available for Mac, and even GarageBand. I've done stuff on GarageBand, which has ended up on in TV shows and stuff in the UK. So there are various ways of getting there, but you have to remember your final product, it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect sound-wise, broadcast quality. It has to be perfect structurally. The lyrics and the melody have to match. You have to have a whole bunch of hooks a real catchy chorus. And if one of those things falls down, then you're going to fall down and you're going to get your song rejected. So what about stuff like Taxi and song submissions? I don't know personally anyone who's ever got a publishing deal or a record deal through anything like that. I'm sure they exist because I've seen the commercials, so I don't think they'd be able to make that claim if they didn't have success. But it is a way. I mean, it's worth it. But primarily, what I'm saying is, you really scupper things up for yourself if you send something which is not high quality. It really has to be. It has to be hooky, catchy, contemporary, commercial. It has to have that something about it. And if it doesn't, you may not get a second chance because they're going to recognize you as a writer and say, oh, we've heard his stuff before, and they're going to reject it. So again, a second opinion is very important. I offer a songwriting evaluation service, and if you email me at www.songcritikusa.com, I'll get back to you and let you know the details. Or if you go to www.songcritikusa.com, you'll find out that's my website. If you email me at songcritikusa@gmail.com, I can get back to you and give you the details. I hope this has been somewhat constructive. My name's Mick Walsh. I wrote hit songs like Dirty Cash, Money Talks, which was revamped by Dizzee Rascal, and a whole bunch of other songs which were successful all over the world. So this concludes the first video that I'm going to do. The next video I'm going to get on to actually writing songs and answer questions like, if you're not the best songwriter in the world, or if you don't play an instrument, how can you improve on that? All right, thank you.